And am I just going to say you're in sales? I feel like that's undermining your position at Lifco.
I feel like we're all in sales.
That's such a humble way of saying it.
And anybody in the business is going to appreciate somebody that just says sales.
Okay, well, I'm joined with Fraser today from Lifco Hydraulics, and we're just going to say you're in sales. Is that fair?
Honestly, say the sales. There's nobody who's moving and shaking who's going to say anything.
You know what? You're a humble guy to just say you're just sales. I like that. But we're here today to talk about Lifco and a little bit more of who they are, what they represent. Let's be honest. Is hydraulics exciting?
It's not really exciting. No, definitely not. Like, do you wake up in the morning and piss hydraulics? I've never, for the 12 years I've been working, I've never been anxious or regretted that I had to go to work.
Okay, good.
Which is pretty incredible. I had done things prior to this where I had done that. The good thing is it's whatever you make of it.
Right.
It's like a blank canvas, and you can show up, and you can go one direction or another direction. And frankly, a lot of the people in the industry would just be happy that you came to work.
Fraser, why do most young people not really see a value in getting involved in manufacturing in Ontario?
It probably has to do a lot with social media. What they see in front of them and they become envious of that.
It's like internet money is taking off.
Totally. Number one job of Gen Z is an influencer.
Is it really? Oh my God.
Right. And so I can see the appeal. I mean, even for me being out here, it's almost like a bit of a vanity project.
Look at you, you're caving.
Yeah. Exactly. It's a bit of a vanity project for sure. And I think people they're a lot more existential.
Yes.
They're a lot more wondering what their place is in this world. And it can be kind of tough to feel like when you're in this industrial world, you can kind of feel like a little bit of just a cog in the machine, as opposed to somebody going out and doing something amazing.
You know, it's funny, like my first kick into manufacturing was working with a company like 2-3 years ago, and then I went into their facility, and you see these $1 million machines, and you have no idea what they make, but then you think about, let's say, for example, a car part or like an engine. Well, you don't think about all the little parts that have to go into that engine, or people don't think about hydraulics even. They don't think that a company would just exist just servicing hydraulics. Take me back to kind of the history of Lifco and like what got you here today. Give me like the quick 2-minute scoop.
It was, we've been in business for 46 years. My dad started it when he was 20 years old. 20 years old? Yes, and he barely finished high school. And he went through a few recessions. And that he was originally doing forklifts, so as like a dealer for a forklift. So you have like a Ford dealer for trucks, but you'd have one for forklifts.
He would just sell forklifts.
He would sell and service forklifts. And then one of the recessions, somebody came in with a hydraulic pump, and he says the phone never rang all day because the recessions were quite severe back then, particularly if you're a smaller company. And he says, well, I will see if I can figure this out. And he did, and he went into hydraulics. And I joined about 12 years ago, and I made it my mission to reinvest. I didn't particularly need to be growing, but I just wanted to take whatever money I made and put it back into the company, and that turned out well, and that's basically where we're here now today. That's
fascinating. I mean, do you find in recessions that manufacturing companies take a pretty big hit? I feel like they're still needed, no? Like you're one of the most needed industries.
It's when COVID came, we received a letter saying from Bruce Nuclear saying that we're not allowed to shut down. Yes.
So you are a necessity.
That's
People
right.
don't see this.
Yes, defense. We received same letter from the U.S. Navy and the Canadian Armed Forces. And from food production as well.
So can you flex a little bit and tell me who maybe some of the customers are for Lifco?
Yep, U.S. Navy is a big one. A lot of UTC Aerospace or Collins, so they do the F-35.
You're kidding me.
Jets, yeah.
Wait, hold on, pause. Your hydraulics are in an F-35?
So the hydraulics that tests those. So the ones that actually go into that equipment would be like hyper-specific stuff. They would be something designed just for that one plane made by one manufacturer. Well, we would do the testing equipment for it because they have to do destructive testing.
Well, obviously they have to do testing. I mean, you're not going to fly a plane.
That's right. SpaceX, Boring Company, all that stuff. They all do destructive testing, which means a lot of hydraulics running continuously.
What's the coolest thing you've been a part of in 46 years? What's the coolest Lifco project that you guys could say that you were
Probably Moog in
that?
Indonesia. They're a defense contractor, and they do the landing gear for the F-35. Yeah. A lot of our stuff, though, does end up on SpaceX in their facility down in Brownsville, which is where they do the testing.
So SpaceX. So Elon Musk's your client.
Yeah.
Let's just say it like it is.
Yeah, anything that's big that moves in a controlled
That's
manner,
crazy.
it's
Wow.
going to have hydraulics on there.
Wow.
The San Francisco cable cars, they have a cable that runs through the city that pulls those cars through the city. Those are our motors.
Okay, so
And by our motors, I mean we sold them
Right.
the motors from another manufacturer.
I want to know more about Lifco, but before I do, just for any young people who are watching, which there probably might not be, we said this would be more of an industry thing, but just genuine curiosity here. Give me the for dummies, 30 seconds. What's so important about a hydraulic? What does it do?
It's used everywhere, and anything that's in a controlled manner that has to move, it's going to be hydraulic. So it's under the scenes, behind the scenes, under the hood. If you want to have a career where you'll never be without a job, and you can have no competition for that position that you want to get, you want to become a manager, the person who's the manager right now is probably going to be retiring very soon. It's a great industry to get into as long as you don't want to go to a cocktail party and tell people what it is that you're doing.
You're in hydraulics.
Yeah.
It's funny because I just have a genuine sense of curiosity around these things, but I guess most people really don't. So, okay, I need to know a little bit more about Lifco. I understand how you guys have grown in the last 46 years. We'll get into it a little bit more in depth. But as a distributor, I mean, one of the biggest things is you can invent or create a really good hydraulic, but a really good company can service that to a lot of different people. Like, for example, we can make one video really nice, but if we can do 50 videos really nice in 1 month, we'll do better. Like, that's what makes a good company. What's distributing like in your industry?
Well, people, they like to go to industries where they can be a price giver. And you would
Explain
often,
that. Explain
that. It's kind of an economics thing where you can set the price. And they think that where you can set the price is more profitable. All things being equal, yes, it's great. So if you have some designer bag and that designer is being able to just charge a Louis Vuitton bag for $4,000, I mean, they could probably make it $5,000. It's the same amount.
Right.
Distribution is a little bit different. We take the price. And you would think, well, that sounds terrible. It means, though, that if I have 20 people who are all selling the same thing at the same price, if I can find a way to get that price a little bit lower, then I could sell an exponential amount. And that's the big difference for distribution is that it has economies of scale. Meaning that, yes, I could try to get more money for the same thing, and of course, I'm always trying to do that.
Yeah, obviously.
You're always
Minimum wage goes up every year.
your costs are going up, absolutely. But what I'm trying to do, though, is I'm trying to get myself where I could sell it for a lower point and make more money. And then you end up getting these very highly scalable types of companies.
But that's a lot of risk too.
Incredible risk.
Because now it's you've got $50 million a month in expenses just to make $10 million. You know what I mean? Like that's
to get the cost down, it could be involving you buying a whole new plant.
So you have to have cash to be able to.
It's not for the faint-hearted, for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I find in a lot of manufacturing, just in the industry in general, you do have to. It's really cash intensive. It's profitable, but it's profitable to a certain extent. Correct?
No. The sky's the limit.
But I couldn't go and like have a hydraulics company with 3 people working for me. Like you just can't.
Well, there's high barriers to entry.
Right.
With any of these. So there's a sort of a minimum level that you have to meet.
I see.
Right. This machine shop that you were talking about earlier, it would be very difficult for them just to have 2 machines. In fact, if you were to go to businessesforsale.com, which is an actual website.
Oh, is it actually?
That's yes.
You guys are probably one of the most sellable businesses. Well, isn't manufacturing one of the most like?
There would be, I think there's a market for every business.
Fair.
If you're trying to sell something that you just simply don't have anything there, then then it's not sellable.
Because you've got equipment, you've got contracts.
People probably wouldn't want equipment. I think
Really?
they'd probably want your sales.
I see.
And they'd want how much are you keeping at the end of every year.
Oh, that's
so,
fair.
and that doesn't really that doesn't matter what industry you're in.
Yeah.
If you're making money, somebody's going to want that.
I mean, okay, so when I understand a little bit more about Lifco, you guys are a hydraulics company. You've been in the business for 46 years. You assist in a lot of the sales department in the business, and you are looking to scale Lifco, obviously. You have a lot of big contracts like the U.S. Navy, UTCC. I mean, even when you can say Lifco and F-35 in the same sentence, I think that's pretty cool. That's a really cool thing to be able to say.
It is cool.
It's literally the nicest and best jet that's ever been made to humankind.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you sell? Because like I hear hydraulics, I don't really understand still what is it that you're actually giving to people? Like what is do you know what I mean?
And that is the problem. How do you explain to people that
People don't get it.
Why should you care?
Right.
And a lot of our efforts are directed to people who are already in the industry, who have already established that they do care. For most people, they probably don't need to care. Unless they're looking for a career choice, maybe. In the industry, though, those are where we try to convince them, saying, you care in general, care about us here. And you should care about us because of the technical knowledge that we're bringing, the amount of capital reinvestment that we've done. So we've made money, and instead of just sending it to a person who is retiring down in Florida, we're going and we're putting that to service our customers better, which is quite rare in our industry as well.
Yep.
And also, too, is we have sort of a critical mass where we can fill in their gaps, that we're big enough to solve a lot of the gaps that these manufacturers have, but still small enough to deal with our customers quickly. For instance, a perfect example would be a lot of these factories, they have a minimum order quantity of 50. We will be able to meet that minimum order quantity of 50, and we'll wait 8 months to get our stuff. But when Joe off the street with some piece of equipment there, he needs just one, and he needs it within a couple hours. A factory that's doing 50, minimum order of 50,
isn't going to do
and waiting
one.
8 months isn't going to help them.
I see. So you guys are actually there to fill that gap for the small guys.
That's right. And sometimes even it's just to pick up the crumbs too of this. It's a good business because you have these Fortune 500 companies,
right?
And they're massive, and they let a lot of things go too. So there's quite a little bit of niches in there. And what's happening is we satisfy the niche so well that they start saying, well, we're just not going to handle it anymore. We'll just give the whole portfolio to you, the whole account to you, and that's happening more and more frequently.
So help me understand, like, the gap that hydraulics fills. Dumb it down for me. Be super specific.
Hydraulics is for the technical aspect of it, the engineering side of it, is that when things need to move, they need to move in a controlled manner. Okay? When you have that piece of equipment that's on the side of the road, when you have that hole that needs to be dug, it's not going to dig itself. A piece of equipment, you need to have what's called an actuator. It needs to move a piece of equipment to make that hole. When you're producing your food, you need something that is cutting up the food, that's processing the food, your chemicals, it needs to get mixed. These machines that do that, they need to be very powerful. And if they're powerful, they're hydraulics.
Would you say hydraulics is one of the best inventions known to mankind?
Ooh.
I mean, people compare it to like I've heard people compare it to the wheel, to the printing press.
Well, I think that any of the first inventions are usually the best.
Yes, obviously.
You know, so.
But without hydraulics, we couldn't build a skyscraper at all, not even close.
No, it's
couldn't build the city.
It looks like it's irreplaceable. Let me put it that way. Comparing inventions, it doesn't look like that there's any replacement for it whatsoever. It's not going anywhere, and it's also highly efficient, which means in today's green economy, we're looking at efficiencies of 90%. That means that only 10% of the energy is lost when you use hydraulics. But if you were to use solar panels, for instance, their efficiency is 23%.
Right. So let me ask you this, because as part of what I wanted to get into and what we have written down here is, okay, hydraulics is great, sure. But there's also other companies that service people in hydraulics. I'm sure there are. You have competitors. What makes you stand out from those competitors? Why would I go to you versus somebody else, even if you're a little bit more money, let's say?
Well, a lot of them have a owner that is probably close to retiring. That what they're doing is that they're selling stuff, and they're just trying to make as much money as they can in their short period before they retire. So not only
because they have nobody to pass it on to.
That's right. And so not only are you are starting to rely on this person. When it's business to business, it's repeat customers. Our average customer is with us for 20 years.
Oh my gosh.
So that means if you're with somebody who's older, you're maybe going to get a couple more years out of them, and they're going to be trying to get as much money out of you as you can in those last few years, their twilight years of their business. You want somebody who's staying up to date. You want somebody that's staying current. Imagine if you always use one automobile shop, and turns out they can't handle electric vehicles, and you wanted to.
What's the average age of the industry? Do you know?
It'd probably be late 50s.
Late 50s.
Yes.
Wow.
For the owners, probably late 60s.
Wow.
I go to quite a few people who reach out to us saying, hey, do you want to buy us?
Well, I just think, sorry to jump around here a little bit, but
Please do.
you guys have a great opportunity, because as these older people are phasing out of the business, you can actually get involved in that business and now become like the biggest absolute distributor across North America for hydraulics.
Acquisitions is a huge part of it. I started to do it a bit, and then I made a vow not to do any more acquisitions.
Really?
Yes. I was instead going to outcompete them to get their customer just to come to me rather than buy that customer, which is essentially what I was doing.
Do you have something against acquisitions?
No, it's just it's a very there's a lot of hubris in it, meaning that it becomes sort of a vanity project.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it feels great to walk into a building and just say, okay, I now own all of this.
I buy it.
And you're like, what are you going to do? Just say to the staff, I own you, and you. And they're like, well, I'm just going to leave.
I see. But aren't the biggest companies built through acquisitions?
I think if you read Good to Great is kind of a famous book.
Okay.
And there was no correlation to it. It's just
Really?
whatever your plan is.
So there's no right or wrong way to do it.
No, there isn't. There really isn't.
The other thing too,
There's definitely wrong ways. There's no right way though.
I will say I admire that, because it shows your commitment to always improving. When you are basically saying to yourself, I don't need, because if you have the capital to buy all these companies, let's say you can buy out your 3 biggest competitors, then literally your customers, or the people that maybe thought about going to you, now almost have to go to you, because you're one of the only people that can serve it. And it actually and what we've seen from some big companies, right, is they get lazy.
Totally.
And they stop innovating. Whereas you're telling me you're not going to bother doing that, and you're going to keep innovating, keep improving your service.
If you had the money to buy out your competitors, then why didn't you use that money to outcompete them to begin with? So,
that's a really interesting way of looking at it.
Yeah. But who are these competitors? You shouldn't have any competitors. That should be your goal when you wake up. And of course, that's not practical. But
Right. Yeah. That's a good way to look at it. So let me ask you this: what do you guys sell? Get a little bit specific. I don't know the specifics exactly, but I want to know what you guys sell. What are the main things?
The main part of the business is that when somebody has a piece of equipment and it stops working, it's usually because something is worn out.
Okay.
And so they look for, on that piece of equipment, it would have a tag with the part number. They go online, or they go to their local distributor for it, and they want to replace that one single component. That's about 90% of our business.
Really?
Yeah. Another 5% of the business are sort of these engineered solutions, which can get very exciting too.
Well, okay, so explain that to me just a little bit.
Those are ones where they have a problem and you have to solve the problem. So it's not like a component. They've already identified the problem.
Hey, our manufacturing line is too slow, and we believe
Bingo.
you might be the solution, but
Totally.
we need you to come see it. Tell us what you would do.
That's right. Maybe some automation in there too.
That's got to be the most exciting.
It's fun. It's the least profitable as well, though.
Really?
Yeah, that's right.
Custom solutions.
Those custom solutions are the least profitable, yeah. The distribution is the most profitable. But then our most exciting part is a recent acquisition that we have, which is excavator attachments. So that hole that needs to be dug there, buy an excavator, we would make the bucket that does that.
You now make the bucket.
We make the bucket, yes. If you have a tree that needs to be cut in half, and you have an excavator or you need to fell a bunch of trees, we have tools that actuated tools, so hydraulic tools that can cut the tree down. And we make those here in St. Catharines and in Western New York, in Buffalo.
So you make those, and then on top of that, you make the hydraulic. So basically, because for you, just in growing your business, it actually makes sense for you to continuously innovate and build a bigger product offering if you can do it properly, because the customer's already coming to you for the hydraulic, which is before the bucket, and if you can service the bucket, then you're just the next step in the line.
Totally, and where a lot of companies go wrong is that they start to manufacture something that competes with their other business, and they end up really annoying their vendors. And their vendors start saying, well, these guys aren't going to be with us for 20 years, because everybody cares about 20 years, right? They say, well, these are now going to compete with us. So what we don't want to do is we don't want to manufacture hydraulic components. We want to manufacture excavator components. In fact, if you can get the hydraulic components into the excavator attachments, then you're really going to make good money.
And wow. And now you basically like a full service.
And when they buy this excavator attachment from you, you are able to offer the complete package there. You got the 5,000 pound excavator attachment. You got the hydraulics in there. You can give them replacements. You can troubleshoot, all that sort of stuff.
So what makes you, because you have such a high level of responsibility. I mean, a hydraulic fails, that could kill somebody. I mean, especially if you imagine they're propping up a car and the guy's working under the car and the hydraulic fails. Like, that's a serious responsibility.
Well, that would be a very bad mechanic. Okay, so that you should not be repairing things that way. You would need to use a mechanical device in that situation to do that. But yes, it is very serious. I would say that's probably more serious is that if it's on a submarine, which we supply for nuclear submarines, or if it's an aircraft carrier and they got to get that thing up to the flight deck, they have redundancy systems, but it has to work. Oh
my gosh! So when they need to take a jet, okay, I'm just thinking about this.
Yep, the elevators. Cool. Yep.
When they need to take a jet and put it on the top, they'll use your hydraulics.
Well,
the testing of those?
The manufacturer. So we represent Parker, which is a brand.
Right.
So they use Parker hydraulics on those. In fact, I once got a call from somebody years ago when I first got started, and he says, I need hydraulics for my elevator. And there used to be hydraulic elevators in hotels and so forth. They don't really do it that way anymore.
Oh, okay, yeah,
and I says, well, hydraulic, and he told me this model code, and I was like, wow, that's a really big
elevator,
big component here, a big elevator. And he's like, he says, yes, it's on an aircraft carrier.
And then little do you know, it's carrying like a $25 million jet, hoisting it up.
$1 billion jet.
Oh
yeah,
my God,
some of those things are.
That's insane.
Yes.
So it's a high level of responsibility. You brought up something that I wanted to get into, the Parker component here. Like what's the significance of that to somebody who doesn't understand?
Parker would be like
me.
The GM of cars. Okay, so you have you have your big three. You got your big three in hydraulics. Most industries they go to
really
they go to three. Yes. It'd be like we have 5 banks. Well, they try to make it 3 banks in Canada. Okay? So you got the big three. Parker being one of them. And
all the banks are big shareholders of each other.
Yeah, don't get me started.
We don't have to get into that.
Yeah. That's a whole other podcast on bankers. There's a reason we're debt free.
Yeah.
So Parker though is based in Cleveland, and a lot of their manufacturing is done stateside as well.
Okay, I see.
So we don't have this whole Chinese problem that was happening. Now, during COVID, a lot of them, they started doing what was called nearshoring, which basically was the same as going...
What is that? What is that? No, this is really interesting.
It's basically Mexico.
Okay, so help me understand, because we want jobs like the ones you're providing. How many employees do you guys have, by the way?
100.
So we want jobs like the ones you guys are supplying here in Canada. The worst thing that could happen is that you say, well, we're going to start manufacturing in Mexico or in China, right? Because that's taking away jobs from Canadians and Americans. So is the industry predominantly manufactured locally, like in North America?
Hydraulics, it is, yes.
Why?
Probably because it's the manufacturing processes are quite technical.
Okay.
Quality control is very important because tolerances are tight. A lot of military.
Oh, and they're not going to get their. Okay, I see. Why would they buy their hydraulics from a Chinese company?
Right. And it's also critical.
Okay.
You know, it's being used for food production, nuclear power, defense.
I see.
Aerospace, yeah. So all this stuff is critical. You can't. We do have stuff that comes from overseas. It is a nightmare.
So Parker is. What do they offer? They offer hydraulics?
They do. They're a bit of a conglomerate, and they have one of their divisions is the hydraulics division.
I see. Okay, and you help support that hydraulics
And
division.
we're a distributor for that.
For them. I see.
Yes, and a distributor, typically a distributor would take orders and then place them with Parker and so forth. But that's now starting to change. Now what you need is, because of supply chain problems and pricing there and all these systems and so forth that are very old at Parker, they need distributors who are now much more advanced. They need distributors who are holding a lot of inventory, who know what they're talking about. For instance, Parker used to have a technical support, but all those people retired. So now they no longer have a technical support in their hydraulics division.
So they need a company that just doesn't give them any problems and can just service the job without needing any sort of major technical support.
That's right. The don't give them any problems is the key. Making waves is the enemy of a distributor.
So a big company goes to, let's say Elon Musk's factory for manufacturing, the Gigafactory, let's just say, okay?
Yep.
So obviously hydraulics are needed in there.
Tons. Massive.
How much worth do you think is in, let's have fun here. How much worth?
They have those two casting machines there. So we're in Texas and we're in Corpus Christi.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, which is about 2 hours away from the Gigafactory. So they have two casting machines in there. They're the world's largest casting, a whole body. So two presses come together and they fill it up with molten aluminum and then into a cast. And then they release, and there's a truck body or a
oh my God,
a whole cyber truck. And
so it's like this.
Yes. Now the standard ones are about 3 stories tall, and those ones are extra big.
Okay, wait. How much do you think is worth of hydraulics inside just the Gigafactory, like the one in Texas?
I would say that on each probably one of those machines is probably $3 million of hydraulics, U.S. And they have 2 of those machines, and then they probably have a whole bunch of like injection molding, which each one would maybe have 300,000 in there. They probably have 40 of those injection molding.
So they've got probably around 50 million, 40 million, 50 million in hydraulics?
I would say yes. I mean, what did they spend? 40 million just on glass on the outside of there?
Yeah.
So,
and then there was something else that, the NVIDIA chips, he spent, I think it's like billions on the NVIDIA chips for the cars or something along those lines.
The business is out there. The business is out there for sure.
So basically, like, help me understand, because this is really cool to me. Tesla says to Parker,
Yep.
we need this. Parker says, sure. But Tesla said to Parker, we need this, this, and this, and this. Not just hydraulics. They need like 6 other things. Parker then comes to you guys and says, hey, we have to fulfill this. This is we're going to give you this portion of it to fulfill. Please fulfill it by this date, whatever, yada, yada. They fulfill that. So is that how the distribution line kind of works?
It's very close relationships. For instance, my Parker reps, I've known, I talk to them weekly and so forth. It's very transparent. I tell them exactly what I'm doing. We would probably go in together. And we would sort of say, okay, work out all these things here and maybe bring in, and everybody would work together. It's not like your car salesman type thing here. Everybody would be.
This is the most valuable episode. I mean, when you think about big companies, you people think that everybody just did it alone. No, the big companies are the ones that actually
Cooperation.
embraced cooperation with other companies.
Always, you always have to put your ego aside. You always have to cooperate, no matter what. Even if you're threatening legal action on one, you're still always extending an olive branch all the time.
That was fascinating to me.
Yeah, it's
Distribute no, but it's serious because you know what's so funny? As we grow, one of the things that I'm trying to focus on, and you just solidified the nail in the coffin for me on why I now know that this is a good decision, is, hey, listen, there's clients who need things serviced, and you have to be able to service all of those items. So know that if you need help from other companies, don't feel like you can't pull it in.
Oh yeah, just the more
people underestimate that so much.
I think that it's probably maybe a size too. Just get some of the people who are, because if you get some of the large people, they're just going to be very trusting people.
So I'm quickly realizing that you really want to build a good level of confidence with distributors like Parker to make sure that they can, pass off work to you and say to you, hey, we need this account filled, and you don't have to bother them at all. So I'm going to play some devil's advocate here.
Absolutely. We want Parker to say, hey, it's a valuable to customers, but it's not valuable to us, Parker saying this, and say, maybe we can give it to somebody else who can do it profitably.
Right. Mm-hmm. And that would be you guys in this case.
Absolutely.
In most cases.
And it typically would require a lot of capital investment.
Right,
as well.
right.
Training, recruiting, quality control, all these processes in here.
So that's why you, for the last 12 years, reinvesting a lot of the money that you could have just made, put in a savings account, bought a place in Florida, and lived there. Instead, you're actually putting that back into hiring, training, engaging with people. Even too, what's like the importance? I think it's important for Parker to also understand the average age of an employee at Lifco, because, quite frankly, if I'm Parker, I'm thinking 30 years from now, I want to know that they're not going to be retired.
Oh, they have a genuine concern for that. When they come to me, I show them the young people that are coming in.
Do you know the average age of Lifco? Sorry to put you on the spot here. It's probably tough to.
Well, what we started doing is we really had a mentorship type, a senior and a junior. So if you see on our videos a lot, you'll see a lot of Trent, the young mechanic, mechanic in trouble YouTube video that we had with Willie or Lloyd being his dad, Willie being with us for 30 years. So we always try to get those two sides, because they're both valuable. The maturity and experience, but then also the youthful energy and longevity there that we're going to see from them. So they're all valuable, but you just got to make sure you got fresh people coming in, for sure. I would say the average age of our younger generation, I want to say probably late 20s.
Late 20s.
Yeah, that was a big hiring push that we did in the last maybe 6 years.
Really?
Yeah.
What makes you so willing to take risks? Like, why do you? Because I think it's important for even your distributors to understand why you, above all else, care about taking these risks and having this intense, injection of capital being put into your business almost every year.
I think a lot of people, they have to make money every single quarter. Or they have to, and what I mean make money is they need to pay themselves money every single quarter.
And we're not just talking small money, we're talking big money.
They want it, and they want big money, and they want that happening every single time. For us, though, we only really care about, in our 46 years of business, we've been through it all. We've been through 5 recessions here. We really only care about the long-term view of it. So it allows us to take more risks. We're also debt-free. So we make sure that we're prepared.
46 years in the business, 100 employees, and you're debt free.
Yes, and we plan a lot, and we make sure that we're in a position to take advantage of any opportunities that are out there. It's the big thing.
It's like fascinating to me. So I know the capital investment side is important. What kinds of things are you investing in the technology aspect? Get a little specific so that even your distributors can understand this a little bit more.
There's really 3 major things. One is on the sort of the warehousing side of things. So that's being able to quickly pull parts, pick parts to ship them out. Those would be like things like vertical lift modules. They store in trays up into the ceiling. The other side would be quality control. So test stands is a big one. Testing equipment. We're even starting to do video cameras where parts are coming on before they ship. They're being video camered so that if we ever need to go back there to see what actually shipped. Because sometimes you have orders.
Oh my God, that's genius. Right. So maybe something's a little nicked or whatever it may be. That happens.
That happens. And they say, well, it was damaged before I got it. Well, no, it wasn't. Or yes, it was. I saw this. Or we'll fix it right away. It just takes the uncertainty out of it. And the other part is on the IT side of things. Just information. There's just so much information out there. You need to get it in front of the right person and make sure it's up to date. Those three parts of the business.
My God.
Yeah.
And would you say that most companies don't typically do that? It's more so, take the money, just kind of, run the wave, keep it simple.
It's a mature industry.
Yeah.
I think that
yeah.
most probably.
Well, I'll be honest. If I'm 60 years old and I've busted my balls for the last 40 years working, you think I want to just keep reinvesting? No, I don't.
The most profitable time of any business would be at that. Definitely the best for cash flow. That's for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so as it relates to recruitment, because I know just from the manufacturers that I've spoken with and that we've worked with, that's one of the biggest concerns. Jobs.
They have whole departments that they can't fill in a lot of these larger organizations. And so we have to fill in those gaps.
Why would I want to work at Lifco? And I want to point something out. You just told me that a father worked there for 30 years at Lifco and still does,
yep.
and he's training his son to work at Lifco.
We have 15 family units. Everything from father, daughter to basically spouses. So we have quite a bit of that sort of the family feel for it as well.
Right. What builds that?
A big thing is standing by people. We fire slow is another thing. So we'll reprimand you. We'll do all those things. So people know that one little slip up doesn't mean that they're now going to be struggling to make their next mortgage payment.
And they're more willing to take risks.
I think it's a lower risk for them. The risk is passed on to us.
Right.
So for these guys here, it's actually a much lower risk. They think that going to this large company is maybe could be more long-term prospects, but in fact, there's so much bureaucracy, and
right.
they could have a whole department cut. That doesn't happen at Lifco. We don't lay people off. We've never laid somebody off in the 12 years I've been here.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Wow. Like, how do you navigate finding the right person? Like, what does the hiring process look like?
The hiring process.
It's obviously different. Sorry, between
it could be
departments.
It could be informal. It's a lot of it is, why don't we bring you on and see how it goes? It's a lot of that, particularly if they're not working. If they're not working, you have no risk. Come on in here. Let's try to figure things out. The interview process is more making sure, is it a good fit for you? And if it's a bad fit, please, I tell people, just walk in my door and just say, hey, it's not working out.
So let me ask you this. If you were to get a big account tomorrow, how would you go about going from 100 to 200 employees just to be able to service that big account?
Ooh, I have thrown employees at problems, and it has never worked out well. Mm-hmm. I'd probably first reprioritize some existing people, then get people on board and get them at the ground level. So I wouldn't throw them into this big account. I would do them in maybe more admin roles, something that's maybe more procedural, something where the skill set is transferable across multiple companies as well, meaning that they could come in and already know some stuff. Or that they don't feel like they're taking on something that they would have zero possibility of ever, they don't have 10 years of hydraulic experience. But they could, for instance, process some orders. They could do some quality control measures and so forth. Things that are a little easier to get on board with. And the onboarding is probably the most critical part. And also team them up with somebody who knows what they're doing. So they have questions, they can always go to this one person, put them in the same office.
And that would be really?
Yeah.
You're giving me too many good tips. Yeah. I feel like I should be paying for this advice.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you this, because I know recruitment's a big one. We addressed that. I want to understand a little bit more in depth about what you guys sell. Get into the specifics of the product and what product offerings. I mean, you brought up as an example the excavating thing, but what other product offerings do you offer across a wide range of items?
If you're struggling to make sure you get the right thing, okay, then probably get us involved. Okay? If you're struggling for Parker from stock, meaning you don't want to wait or you can't wait 8 months, come to us. Do
you have a lot of items in stock?
We have an incredible amount of stock. You might have to pay a little bit of a premium, but you're going to get it, and you're going to get the right thing right away. In a lot of cases, though, because of our purchasing power now, the premium that you used to pay for in stock has become basically zero. We're able to get you exactly what you need quickly. Now, we also started to do these build centers. And people say build centers a lot.
Yeah, what is that?
Well, what it is it's getting you a customized product, but at a factory order price. And the customized product is from stock, meaning that you don't need to place an order for 8-month lead time. You can get it within 8 hours. And what we'll do is we will buy all of the components, or we'll make the components, we'll rapidly machine them if we have to, and configure them, and we'll assemble it for you, test it for you, and ship it out all
and
within
you're
a day.
able to do that because you're constantly reinvesting the capital.
That's right. I mean, even when I was talking about the warehousing, you can't just put the stuff on a shelf and have somebody go there with a shopping cart go and pick stuff. No, they need to come from these machines. They need to be bringing trays down. If it was taking you 15 minutes to pick these 40 components, you need to be able to do that in 2 minutes, or else you're not going to be able to scale up.
How do you compete on a price when you tell me factory ordered price, but a custom requirement?
It's because you are going to buy one from this factory, and that factory has to do all this paperwork. Well, what we do is we buy all of the components, and we buy them in a large enough volume now, and that we are able to handle things at 300 of these components all at once, put them away on the shelf and so forth. While they would have had to, let's say this thing was made in Sweden, they would have had to ship this one product on a boat from Sweden, go through freight forwarders, and then ship it to you for you to get it. We just have it on the shelf there. So there's the economies of scale, meaning that the size of what we're doing this, we're able to satisfy 10 customers in one day for a better price.
So one of the things that we had talked about was the excavating attachment. And on top of that, just what you manufacture in general. What kind of items are you manufacturing specifically?
We're manufacturing the entire component, except for occasionally some of the pins that go in there. Because those pins, you can get they're kind of a commodity. What you see is what you get. And we have gone through enough quality control to make sure that you're getting a decent pin. We can cut pins from North American steel if we have to. But the rest of it is actually made in our own plants. And we're starting to make videos, for instance, of us manufacturing the one. So Samuel, if you were to buy that one from us, we're showing a welder or a machinist saying let's say you had some special characteristic you want in this here. We're saying, Samuel, hey, we're making this special one with this little change that you wanted here. It was pretty easy for us to do, and this thing's gonna be done in about a week. And you can see it come alive
Sending
right here.
video updates.
That's right, yeah. So you can actually see it right there in our factory. We're cutting the steel ourselves. We invested in a new water jet, a 5-axis water jet. So this is water, abrasive water. So it has like a sand in there, and it cuts through steel.
It shoots it.
It can cut through about a foot of steel.
A foot of steel.
A foot of steel. Takes a while, but yeah.
Takes a while. That's so cool, though. Is there anything that, just from a customer's eye, like, what would you say is Lifco's mission statement or vision statement for the future? Because I want to know, like, 5-10 years from now, it doesn't sound like a ton of time, but it is for the advancements that you guys are making already.
Lifco wants to get you what you need within one business day.
Wow.
Okay? Whether it's hydraulic components, piston pumps, gear pumps, or cylinders or excavator attachments or their accessories, we want to get you what you need available within 1 day, and then ideally at your doorstep 1 day from there, so a 1 day transit time. No matter what, if we have to have 3 times the amount of warehouses, 3 times the amount of equipment, or 3 times the amount of IT services there to do that, then we will do that.
And that's the vision.
That's the vision, yes.
I love it.
Yeah.
Fraser, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
This is good.
Great.